You're listening to Bedroom Beethovens, where notable music makers break down stories accompanied by songs and melodies documenting growth through their 10,000 hour journey. And me? Well, my name is Cello, your host.
I am a bedroom Beethoven.
Hey everyone, first show of 2021, and I'm feeling refreshed, recharged, and excited to share another 10,000 hour journey with you. This time I revisit my northern neighbor, Canada, for episode 101. My guest this week is...
I'm Ryan Hemsworth, a producer. Yeah, I started a new project recently called Quarter Life Crisis, but the last 10-ish years I've been making instrumental stuff under my own name and producing for other singers and rappers, artists like Tinashe, and made music with Alex G and E40, and big weird mix of artists probably.
I can make 100 in a day. Not $100, but $100K. Hand weight a yell, I don't need a fish scale. Flipping packs like a motherfucking cartwheel. Quadruple, quadruple, quadruple. This a yacht master on my wrist, not a Hugo. I'm a Godzilla ballin', factor from the cage. If you look me in my eye, you see rage. Shoebox money, I surpassed. So much cash, need baseball bat bags. Got a bounty on my head, I reversed the hit. Be careful who you have a dinner with. Never know how much time you got left till the angel of death come and take away your breath.
Physical copies and records of Halifax's early hip-hop era are being lost to time. What remains are samples of samples and an incomplete history in various private collections. And by the 2000s, technology changed the game entirely, everywhere. A standard computer was an infinite studio. Production was no longer limited by access but by creativity. Influences and audiences broadened. Clubs and bars opened doors to DJs of all genres, and subgenres of rap expanded. You could find gangsta rap, conscious rap, slow jams, breakbeats, you name it. Enter my next guest. Halifax is poised to compete in the hip-hop game on an international level. Artists here belong to struggles and histories that are relatable to many, but are experienced by few. And that's why we've stayed true. As the dreamy soundscape of bedroom pop enters the podcast as Yohuna swings by to add layers to the discussion. But before we get to it all, I quickly want to remind everyone how accessible I am. Swing by bedroombeethovens.com. You can reach out to me directly. What do you need? I'm here for you. Let's get this year off on the right foot. And if you are so kind, you can donate to the show, not just with your time, but by visiting patreon.com/bedroombeethovens. I need more Patreons. Help me out. If you enjoy the show, or if you're a new listener, it's the fastest, easiest way to help your boy out. 101, like Dalmatians, Quarter Life Crisis, and Cello. Let's start the show. You have a new project out. We have a new president. The McRib is back. It's a new year, so it's all good.
Yeah, big year for those things.
Yeah, in fact, I got a little news for you. Like this day, 20 years ago, the film that pioneered the concept of the teen death game, the Japanese classic. Without this film, there would be no Kill Bill. Battle Royale came out on this day 20 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy. That's like one of the maybe first Japanese movies that got me into Japanese movies in general, I guess, in grade 10 or grade 9, something like that.
I think in Kill Bill, the girl who had the spiked ball with the chain, I think that's where she came from. She couldn't speak any English.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I think, I think she's also maybe a pop star, or she was already super famous in Japan.
So yeah, that's a little film trivia. So, but I'm from Austin though, and my introduction to you was about 7 years ago when you DJ'd at a puppy shelter and you shut the game down at South by Southwest.
Yeah, it's all been downhill from there.
Yeah, South by Southwest got canceled last year for the first time in over 30 years because of the pandemic. So
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's really weird to think about. And I had gone like during that time, I went like 4 or 5 years in a row, and then I kind of stopped for a couple of years just because, like, I don't know, it felt like overkill. And sometimes with South by, you kind of question your existence and your value as a human because it's like very assembly line when you're like, when I was going originally, it was just like every day, like at least 3 sets a day, and you're just like running from like venue to venue. And yeah, it just kind of, because that's your introduction, most people's introduction to it, you think that's normal. And then like by Sunday, you're just like, did any of this really matter like in the long run? I think it does. I did make a lot of like actually lasting relationships and met a lot of friends there, but there's a lot of just like kind of killing yourself for you're not really sure exactly what, like maybe a blog post at the time or something, but yeah.
But this year, in retrospect, you seem to be handling the pandemic well. You're not bleaching your hair. You're not getting religious tattoos all over your body.
Well, not that you know of.
Yeah. On the surface, it seems like you're handling it well.
Yeah, I think I'm doing okay. I mean, as good as possible. Like I'm lucky that I can, work in an industry that I can just sit at home and do my thing, whatever that is. Like, and lately, yeah, it's just been kind of trying this new project and taking advantage of the fact that I can experiment a bit right now, because I don't need to worry about, okay, like make this project to go tour, and if I'm going to make this type of music, it has to be fitting for this type of venue or whatever. Like, it's actually, if you're able to experiment right now, I think it's a really great time.
Are you a dad? I'm seeing baby pictures here and there.
Yeah. Last summer I had a son.
Congrats. And you're quarantined up in Canada right now.
That's right. Yeah. Hamilton, Ontario.
Now, so, I read, kind of where you grew up, African Americans only represented like 2% of Nova Scotia at the time. I don't think much has changed, but there is hip hop history there. So what was it like growing up there?
Yeah. I think you definitely nailed that factoid. In retrospect, I definitely like appreciate Halifax and what it's like on the East Coast growing up. But by the time I was like in university, I just wanted to get out of there really bad, because there can be a very low ceiling to music and beyond that. But let's just say music, like especially for producers or electronic music or rap, like there's definitely a scene mostly for like indie rock bands, and you can definitely kind of survive off that if you've got like a buzzing indie rock band that you're a 4-piece group of white dudes that go from venue to venue there, and that can work, I guess. But I was like, by high school I was just making stuff on my computer, and I wanted to work with rappers, and was definitely like having trouble finding anyone to actually work with in person where I was. So that's when I started like reaching out to people in the Bay and in LA and New York and stuff like that, and just doing the struggle producer cold email type of thing for a while. But yeah, I mean, growing up there, it was fine. It's just, it feels like the small town mentality a bit, and I don't know if it's ever had like the real support system that it needs for artists to really thrive there.
Like when Tom Green was rapping back in the day, did that make any actual waves up there? Like the Trailer Park Boys, do you remember all that?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Trailer Park Boys is like filmed like an hour from where I grew up. That and Bubbles has a venue like downtown that people would go to. I didn't really go to because it was pretty messy, but yeah, that's that was our like local legend stuff. So that kind of, maybe tells you what it's like.
Yeah, so in middle school you made a CD, and on there was just the two of us, not the Will Smith version, but the Austin Powers version. Then you had Warren G, Nobody Does It Better, arguably the most underrated Nate Dogg chorus, if I do say so myself. You had Limp Bizkit, Nookie, which was a missed opportunity to put Wu-Tang and DJ Premier on there.
You're like literally telling me I don't even remember doing this.
I had to bring it up because you also had Breaker Breaker by Jizza, which nobody talks about, and that is like my favorite Jizza track.
Yeah, that was my cousin who pretty much like got me into everything when I was growing up. He had a band out there, and then he just had great taste, and we're still like super close now. But he got me into Wu-Tang Clan and like all of that stuff, like in Mobb Deep, and like in again like kind of that grade 9, grade 10 era. I feel like that's a pretty foundational period for music taste for most people, probably.
The last track on there was Len, and I never heard of them, so I listened to Steal My Sunshine. I was like, I do remember that song, and they were a Canadian
every
group.
Commercial, every like
were they one hit
like
wonders?
laundry detergent type commercial music. They were, but very Canadian. Yeah, it's such a weird. I don't even know what type of music that is, but did you see the music video?
I did. It reminded me of like Starry Eyes Surprise, like what was that, Crazy Town type thing, where it's like a bunch of tattooed guys on bikes just riding down the street.
Yeah, big Crazy Town vibes for sure. Canadian Crazy Town. That's very accurate.
Yeah, you don't know how close I was to naming this podcast Rap Mix 69. It was really close. Now, I did want to talk about your dad because I know that he was a hydrogeologist, and that's a person who studies the way that groundwater moves through the soil and rocks on the earth. And a hydrologist is someone who studies surface water. And I always like to think that there was a fork in the road at some point in college where your dad was like, hydrogeologist or hydrologist, and it kept him up at night. And he ended up flipping a coin.
Yeah, and you're honestly teaching me because like it's one of those weird situations where I don't know if many other people feel that way, but like I never really knew what he did. Like, he would drop me off at school and then go to work, and I'd be like, where is he going? Like, I knew where the office was, but what does he do all day? And it's kind of, I don't know if that's like a thing that's going to be changing over time, because it's weird to think like with my son, like he's just going to see me go out to my shed in my yard where I'm making music, and it's pretty easy to comprehend what I'm doing. I feel like maybe jobs are changing a bit in that way. But my dad originally, I think he was starting to study engineering, and then he moved over to that. That's a very good question. Honestly, I should get him on the line just to ask where that transition happened.
Because I mean, your son, if he ends up growing up and he does something completely contrasting what you do, there's that dynamic. Mm-hmm. Because I bet at first when you travel to LA, the Bay Area, or Atlanta, or overseas to parts of Asia, that's what probably brought validity to what you did in your parents' point of view. If your parents came from academia and your mom was a nutritionist and hydrogeologist, they're very data-driven. Their jobs are data-driven. And you venturing off into music must have been a curveball. But the fact that you get to see the world, you get to tour, that's probably what made them come around to it.
Yeah, I think so. And luckily, I mean, by the time my mom had me, she was just staying at home. And so that's all I've ever known. Because she was always just, at home, which was awesome. But they were always very just like, oh, you liked to do this? Go for it. Like they wanted me to take music lessons when I was a kid, but I was stubborn for some reason and never did that. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised looking back that they were just like, yeah, go ahead and do your thing. And it's just kind of, that was never, I'm super lucky that was never like a fork in the road. There was just like always, I felt like I could just keep going, and if something didn't work, just keep trying, and it kind of snowballed.
So your quarter life crisis, none of it involves, well, do I want to keep doing music forever? Are my parents' expectations of me doing music forever starting to weigh me down. Was any of that factoring into the latest music, or maybe your own personal quarter life crisis that didn't translate into music?
Yeah, no, more personal for sure. I would say reaching a point, I guess mid-20s, where I was just like already starting to, constantly be playing shows and like ending up at like EDM festivals and stuff like that, where I didn't feel like super fitting in. There's definitely aspects that I enjoy of, all of these musical worlds, but yeah, I think I was hitting a bit of a wall and just like not having as much fun as I knew I could be in certain ways. And maybe taking for granted as well, just like the position I was in. So I think, yeah, that kind of all sort of manifested I'm going to like play guitar again and try to make the music that I was like super into in high school and sort of like, yeah, build off that. And that started like years ago. And then it sort of definitely accelerated in like the last 2 years.
What was interesting, though, is you left the lyrics and the intention of the song up to the contributors.
Hey, this is Johanna Swanson, and I make music as a sort of phonetic spelling of my name, Johanna.
If you go later on, I could lie here till the sun goes.
Yeah, that was super fast. And yeah, we were actually like DMing last night. Like we made that song in like technically like a day. Like we should make more because we can probably make 10 songs in 10 days if we wanted to. So
Finally, he sent me this song a little more than 2 years ago. Takes a while for things to come out, but then pandemic delayed everything.
yeah, but I don't think I've met her, maybe at some point in passing, but that was just actually pretty much entirely through like Twitter DM.
And I was just struck by how dreamy, thick, disorienting kind of mood the instrumental he sent had.
I just like sent her a couple ideas and stuff I had made already kind of like with her stuff in mind. Like I was like all of the people on the project, like I've just been a fan of them for years.
And at the time it was a relationship, like I would call it more of like a long-term breakup than a long-term relationship, where, we kept breaking up and then getting back together. And a lot of it had to do with like recreating these moments of, the original like fantasy that brought us into the relationship, the love we felt for one another. And then we would separate and it would just feel like this strange dream I woke up from. And this mood really, really felt similar to me. So I wrote these lyrics.
I had sort of a mindset of what they seemed to kind of gravitate towards and also what I wanted to like ideally hear them on like as something a little different or push them in a different direction.
I just at home recorded like 1 billion vocal tracks with all these harmonies and sent them back to Ryan, and he said he really loved it and it was really fun, and that was sort of that. I'm really proud of ultimately like how this song came together. I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
If you were collaborating with people, like you just said, you had to go back to Twitter DMs and email. And I hope we can come out on the other side of this all with the progress you made of overcoming shyness and being scared to go into the studio. Those feelings are naturally going to start to creep back in. Isolation can be fickle.
Yeah, it is weird timing because as I started this project, I was really making an effort to, meet up with Hand Habits in LA and work on that song. And with Frances, we were talking about sometime earlier this year for me to actually go to Philly and work with her in person on a bunch more. So, obviously all that changed quickly. But yeah, I think seeing how it all ended up and the reaction, especially starting stuff under a new name. I was sort of scared, like if people would find it or connect to it in whatever way. But I've been pleasantly surprised. So that's definitely motivating to be like, okay, we did something cool here with a bunch of different artists. So I definitely want to do more of that.
I was disappointed that Lil B wasn't on the album. I will admit that.
Yeah, sorry about that. That he was just hard to track down as usual.
Lil B's a low key genius. I met him once. I interviewed him, and we talked about Bitcoin for 30 minutes. And then he sent me 8 emails asking for Imogen Heap's phone number. And spoiler alert, I don't have Imogen Heap's phone number.
I completely believe that. I've run into him many times at festivals or whatever it is, and it's just like the best human you could hope to run into.
Yeah.
There was a festival outside Atlanta that I just saw him in the parking lot, and I was like, "Yo, Lil B, how's it going?" And like we had already like known each other. I still don't know how to like refer to him, like, "Hey, it's Lil B," or like Bass God, or like I called him like B once, and that felt really weird. But I heard someone else call him that, so I was like, maybe that's more casual. It's just like, how do you refer to a musical god in person? Is
You just thank him. I guess.
confusing. But yeah, when I saw him that time, I don't know why, but I had a bunch of Cadbury cream eggs on me, and I gave him one. He was like, "Whoa, I've never had this." So that was like a nice feeling to like give him an experience that he's never had somehow.
That's a bucket list moment for sure. Now, I want to ring it back to your first album. Did the success of your debut album allow you to create your own label when you are putting out a sophomore album? Because on paper it seems green, but you were ready.
Yeah, I mean that like the secret song stuff that I've been doing. I started it, I guess, technically around my second project, which the first 2 came out through Last Gang, and there is a project manager A&R there named James Trousey, and he was just like my guy there, and he kind of guided me to starting the secret songs thing, and just like a really supportive guy, like didn't see it as competition in any way, which it never was. I just wanted to initially, I was just like, I don't even know what I want it to be. I just want it to be like a collective label thing where I can, I have resources that other artists that I know don't have. So just sort of trying to like leverage other producers that were in similar positions to me, but didn't know how to put out a song or like, register their publishing or like stuff like that. I don't enjoy doing, but I kind of like the feeling of doing it for someone else because it like puts them into a better position in 6 months or whatever. So that's where the whole thing kind of started. And I was just like, I'll keep it easy. And, it was SoundCloud era, like peak SoundCloud. So I was just doing single releases. And yeah, that was a really great time, I think, to start that.
So it never became too much for you. Like if you reflect back 5-6 years, it was never a headache. It was never a nightmare.
No, not really. Cause I just luckily had like a couple really good friends that were like helping me with artwork. And yeah, I didn't take it too seriously. Like I had a very simple contract and I just, worked with the people that I knew already. It wasn't really a stressful thing to me. Maybe in the last like couple years, I would say it's more like, how do I make this work as well as it used to? Because SoundCloud was such a driving force, like the community behind that. And, now obviously with Spotify and Apple mainly being the platforms that we all use, like there's no real community in any sense there. It's all, driven through the social media that we have to use to post the platforms, which it all feels a little backwards in that way to me. So I'm trying to, just kind of upgrade and find new ways to stay connected in that way.
And as someone who knows how labels work and stuff, well, you know the producer Darkchild, right?
Yeah.
So he sold recently 982 songs of his catalog. Does that make sense to you? Why would you sell the rights to your own music?
I'm seeing that a lot. I mean, I just saw that this morning with Bob Dylan. Didn't he just sell, I think, maybe his entire catalog. I think people are maybe just like ready to jump ship in some way. Maybe in someone like Bob Dylan's position, I can see that, it's easier to like divvy out actual money than, your shares on a track to your kids or whatever. In that way, maybe you just don't want to worry about that at a certain point. That makes sense. And, already I think the labels own, 50% or whatever of his songs anyway. So he's just sort of maybe just like backing away and going to buy an island or something, which I could kind of understand that perspective if you're just like done in general with the music industry.
So for a song as popular as "Say My Name" by Destiny's Child, he earned like 60,000 in royalties because he's getting 3% royalties. So the misconception is the 50-50 split is between the writer and the publisher, not the artist and the producer. Artist and producer could also be one of those, but usually the producer gets points from performance royalties and very rarely from publishing royalties. Is that true?
So in some ways gotten a little better for producers because people I know like him and like Timbaland and all these guys are really fighting for producers, which I think should have been the way it was from day one. Because like, especially now, like if you listen to a lot of music, like, can you just like sit back and think like, do I like this because of just the vocals or the fact that the production is like sounding amazing, it's mixed so well, which was probably done by the producer. Like the writer the producer might have been involved in that. Like the producer is doing so much, and the fact that that's still, they're still walking away sometimes with like 5% or whatever it is of a track, makes no sense to me.
But you might be at a crossroad that you come to later in your career. Will that be an easy decision for you, or are you pretty adamant about owning your own art? Because I did read something where it took you a while in your career to realize that you had creative input in your own art. You had the freedom to make the decisions, like how your videos are going to look, what your cover art's going to look like, maybe what you wore in photo shoots. So you seem like a type of person that values owning your own art.
For the most part, yeah, I do have the rights to everything, which I think is important. And on my level, it's obviously not the same as Darkchild or whoever, but I think it is important to have that just that control over yourself, your image, like your name, that people, if someone purchases that, that's completely out of your hands. Like I didn't fully watch what Dave Chappelle was talking about recently, but I know he was going through that with the Chappelle Show on Netflix. Like at a certain point, they just basically owned the property and they just threw it up there. And he's like, well, I'm not, I don't really want that right now. And luckily he got respected in that way because they actually owe him, for bringing so much content already to their property in that way. But yeah, I think it's really important for people to maintain that. But I can't speak for everyone. If you just need the money and it's an immediate thing, then I understand that situation.
That's what was confusing to me because he has 982 hits. I was like, I don't know if he needs the money. But
I know, and that's a crazy situation. He's definitely one of my favorites, and that's kind of weird to see someone who made music that shaped, parts of your life just to be like, all right, I'm good. Just like give me a check for all that. You can do whatever you want with it for the rest of time. Who knows how long that is.
Well, can I ask you a moral question?
Sure.
Okay. R. Kelly was someone that you were really big into going through high school. Now, you might know where I'm going with this, but if he said, Ryan, the last few years haven't been good to me, but I want to make a comeback album, and I want to make an album so good that people will forget all the shit that I've done, and I want you to produce it. What do you do?
was going to say, sorry, Kels. I don't think it's a good time for either of us to do that. Yeah, that's honestly, I've thought about his whole situation a lot because, yeah, I think between like 2012 and 2016 or whatever, I was like, yeah, for sure, playing a lot of his music and remixing it and whatever. And like, I don't know how I didn't even really know the seriousness of that situation. Once I started seeing, like the documentary that came out and everything in like the last like 4-ish years, then you actually see like, oh, it's been out there for like, 25 years basically. But yeah, you kind of feel like an idiot for sure. But it's weird. I don't know. Things kind of just change in real time like that, and you need to just react properly. You need to, definitely have your own morals figured out, so you know how to react to that and other future situations that might be similar. So I don't know, but yeah, that's a weird one for sure. Like I last year it was just like, all right, so I'm gonna like finally delete all that music from my iTunes.
Well, tell me about the brilliance of Young Thug. Convince me why I should be listening to him more.
I feel bad that I'm the white guy from Canada that has to convince you about Young Thug, but
because my introduction to him and the only time I've ever listened to him was a song called "Say Goodbye" by Post Malone, and I was enjoying the track. And here comes this guy who's singing like all these different octaves, kind of auto-tuned. Mm-hmm. And I've never really given him a chance, but I was weird. First off, I thought it was awful, but I was weirdly like curious about his style.
Yeah.
And I haven't really given him a chance. And I know he's like larger than life. Because hot take here, Ja Rule set the precedent for singing in rap songs, and everyone used to clown him. Mm-hmm. But he was so ahead of his time with records like Always on Time and Living It Up. Yep. Rappers sing more than ever, and without Ja Rule, there'd be no Young Thug. I know that's a hot take, but...
Oh, that's a very fair take for me. I mean, I think that's singing in rap music has always been like my favorite thing. Like Max B was what kind of introduced me to that in general, I would say.
Why you do that? I said I'm sorry, baby. That was Beethovens, not Charlie, baby. Why you do that? She said don't call me, baby. Don't categorize me with all your ladies. Why you do that?
I was like obsessed with Max B's stuff in like high school and going through all those mixtapes. And but yeah, there's definitely a through line to Ja Rule and I think a lot of like New York music. But Young Thug, I mean, I feel like he's kind of the amalgamation of like what some of like the energy that Lil B was bringing, and I don't know, like maybe Soulja Boy, and then like also making that like a little more mainstream appealing, like just like 5% more, to like the point where he can be like a little more properly recorded and it like can work on a track even though it may sound confusing. And I think he's sort of like leveled out a little more lately. Like he's a little more mainstream in that way, but he's still like everything he does seems to be kind of about like making some people turned off a bit and just trying something different that is never fully expected of him. And I think that's like a lot of Atlanta artists for me, and why I enjoy like so much of the music that comes from there.
And do you think these mainstream artists, like, is Drake really into video games? Is Megan Thee Stallion really into anime? Or is this an instance where, oh, Miley Cyrus is doing country music now, but she got a divorce and now she's back to doing pop music? Is it all industry moves to alter our perception and gain various fan bases?
Well, I mean, like, obviously, like, Twitch and everything is taking over. I think, Drake and, like, Diplo and these people, like, streaming with Ninja and the hugest, like, e-sport whatever people, yeah, obviously that's like a trend, and like these guys don't actually like sit at home and play Donkey Kong or anything like yours truly. Megan is legit for sure. Like she definitely knows a lot about like anime and video games and stuff like that. I love that so much. She references Adventure Time a lot. Like there's stuff that's like not even cool to reference, and she's making it cool. So I love that.
Yeah, I know if you ever get bored in quarantine, I'm aware that there are people on YouTube now that are just, I'm not exactly sure, but they're buying like $20,000 boxes of Pokemon cards and hoping to score $15,000 Charizards and stuff. It's like a streaming phenomenon. And these rich kids are going loco, man. I don't know what's going on.
Man, yeah, I don't know. I think I was going pretty hard with like Pokemon stuff in general in like the last 10 years. And I think I like oversaturated it for myself. Or maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know.
Were there, back when you were getting into it, were there $15,000 chance cards and stuff like that? Or is there something new?
I think, well, I mean, there is always like, people talking about like the shiny holographic cards or whatever. And those were super rare in whatever way. But I'm actually surprised that like it's gone up in value in that sense. Like, especially just the general like Pokemon world is like still kind of thriving in that way. It's kind of crazy to me because like I thought that would be, the next generation would be just seeing it as like boomer shit.
Well, I mean, do you and E40 still keep in contact? Because he's 53 years old and he might be living a midlife crisis while we're quarter lifing. Who's to say? But I'm sure you can learn a lot from a guy like that.
I haven't hit him up in a little while, but he, I was, that's such a crazy, amazing person for sure. Like another Bay Area legend. That all came together somehow. And yeah, now I just have like E40's number on my phone, and that just feels like I want to stay in touch, but I don't want to ruin that. I think the last text I sent to him, I was like asking him if he likes like natural wine, and he didn't respond. So maybe I blew it already, but he's like a big, I think he's like going harder with his like alcohol line than like music. And actually, I don't mean that because he goes crazy with music. He drops like triple albums every 3 months. But yeah, I love that he's got like many different franchises.
Yeah, and because the quarter life crisis that you're going through, it didn't start with this album. It started years ago, and I can't relate to this, but I suppose when you're in the music industry for X amount of time, you can lose who you were when you first started out, and if you don't recalibrate or even become self-aware, you can just be like another asshole in a Ferrari, never calling your mom to check in, realizing the only friends you have are the ones that laugh at your jokes for free drinks. So I guess he's mastered that, and you were kind of realizing that yourself, right? So you had to do a little recalibrating.
That's the word exactly that I've been using. Like recalibrating, I think is important for anyone at a certain point, especially if you're, creating and if that's your job in a way. I'm trying to now just like constantly like, step back a bit and just sort of like recalibrate. Like, okay, is this going to make sense for the next 5 years? Like, should this project, like I was starting to think like, should it be under a different name? Is that hopefully allowing like a different avenue to kind of open up that I can do that more and maybe people that eventually don't even know me under my real name, like just know that. And that thought made me really excited just for the prospect of like, I can do all these different things. And it's not, I think also it reached a point where I was like producing like, rap stuff and like R&B and then like working with like a indie rock singer or whatever. And I know that probably confused or like turned off some people that liked one thing and didn't like the other. So I think that kind of also led me in this direction to like start a new name and just sort of try some new stuff in a different way.
So is that a real worry? Like there's no way to bridge the gap and try to please both audiences? Like how do you compartmentalize that? I know you snicker. It's a pipe dream. Like, so you can't have both, I guess.
I think you can. It's just challenging. And I'm going to, continue to do stuff under my own name in that way. That's it's kind of hard for me to make something that is like just one, style or genre for an entire project or something. I feel like my like brain doesn't allow it for whatever reason. I'm kind of like stubborn with myself in that way. I just like get tired of a certain thing as I'm working on it sometimes. So yeah, I think it's sort of, there's levels of challenges in that way. And I don't know. I think I just reached a point where I was like, I want it to feel a little more organized for myself as well. Like I can kind of see in my mind now this project a little more like compartmentalized. Like when I want to do a certain thing, I can go in that direction. If I want to do something else that's like still in that style that I've always done, like I can still do that.
Can you imagine being Koji Kondo? He went to college. He only applied to one job. And he's
dream about it every day.
But I think it's a generational thing because like he only applied to one job, got the job, been there for 40 years. He created a theme for Super Mario Brothers. And guess what? Every game for the next 40 years that you work on is just going to be a variation of that theme. How he doesn't blow his brains out is beyond me. So, a new Yoshi's Island game, update the Mario theme. Super Mario Galaxy, update the Mario theme. Super Mario Maker 2, update it. It's a tune that defines his entire existence. And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but he seems to be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but I think that is kind of a Japanese thing as well, where there's a certain level of dedication to your craft, and however, specific or not that is. Like, I think that's just societally, maybe that's a way that is kind of different than what we're used to, where, yeah, you're supposed to just go bigger and better with each thing that you do. And I think I actually kind of respect in that way if you can like just make the exact thing you do and just sort of maybe slightly improve it every, project over the course of decades. Like that's kind of amazing to me for sure.
Well, we've covered a lot. What did I miss? Floor is yours to say anything, plug anything that I didn't cover.
Oh man. Yeah. I think that's kind of for me right now. It's just been like the Quarter Life Crisis thing that's out now, on digital and vinyl through Saddle Creek. Working with that label was also just kind of a bucket list thing. So that's kind of a nice feeling. That was also music kind of on the other end of the Wu-Tang Clan or whatever in like grade 10. Like I was also obviously listening to like Bright Eyes and Cursive and those bands that were on that label. So
wasn't Aphex Twin on Saddle Creek or no?
No, he was, I guess he was always like Warp or something else, but yeah.
But yeah, that is a very storied label with a lot of big bands. And I know we live in a generation where what's the latest, what's the new, but I want people to remember that Pout is out now. The vinyl is quite sexy. And
thank you.
You've had quite a year, my friend, and I wish you a fruitful and safe 2021. And I appreciate how accessible you are via email. I appreciate your music. I appreciate you. So thank you for being here, boss.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for the interview. It's great questions and nice talking to you.